Hey guys, happy Saturday. I hope you all had a great holiday week if you're in the US, and if not, I hope you had a great week anyway. Today I'm going to be sharing the 5 palettes I would keep if I could only keep 5. This is actually the second year that I've done this, and it's been about a year since my last one, so I figured it was time for an updated version. This time around, I had a very easy time narrowing it down to 5 palettes, and I feel like I would actually feel very happy with just these 5 palettes. I think I'd have a really nice variety. I'd have kind of everything that I need just within these palettes. I did want to quickly say before we get into the palettes, this is actually my last video before Vlogmas begins. This will be my second year doing Vlogmas. I'm so excited. So the plan currently is for me to upload a video every single day in December. So there will be 31 videos in December. I'm so excited. It was so much fun last year. I think it's going to be a ton of fun again this year. So make sure that you're subscribed if you don't want to miss those videos, and also hit the notification bell because sometimes YouTube is weird about letting people know when videos go up. So after today's video, I will be taking just a few days off from uploading just to kind of get prepared and ready for Vlogmas, and I will be back on Wednesday of next week, which also happens to be my birthday, for the first Vlogmas video. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the 5 palettes I would keep if I could only keep 5. So actually, interestingly enough, 3 of these 5 palettes are repeats from last year, and then 2 of them are new. So those 3 palettes really stood the test of time, and then the 2 new palettes are ones that I did bring into my collection at some point in the last year, and they have kind of risen to the very top of my list. So let's start with one of the new palettes. This, I'm sure a lot of you probably guessed that this would be included in this video, but this is the BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. I do have mine in the old packaging, but they do still sell it. It's just in slightly updated packaging with like different shade names. I bought this palette in the spring of this year, and it quickly became a favorite. I've used it so much that I've already hit pan on one of the shades, and I have like a pretty big sized pan in there. I did a 1 month 1 palette with this palette back in the summer. If you want to see that, I have like 20 plus looks that I did with this palette in there. But this is such a fun palette. To me, this is a perfect colorful palette because it's very well balanced. It's got a nice mix of mattes and shimmers. There's also a mix of like bold, bright colors, and then slightly more muted, softer colors, and then even a few neutrals as well. So you can get such a variety of looks with this palette. Like in that whole 1 month 1 palette, I never ever got bored of using it, and I felt like I even still only scratched the surface of what I could do with this palette, because it's such a nice mix of colors. The colors perform beautifully. In my opinion, you really cannot beat the quality of these BH Cosmetics eyeshadows at the price point. Like if you were to put these shadows in a high-end palette and told me that it costs $50, I would not be surprised at all. I would say, yep, those feel like high-end shadows. I just don't think there's anything at this price point that competes with BH Cosmetics, at least from brands that I've tried. So this one was a no-brainer. I opened up my drawers and I immediately grabbed this one because I knew that it would be one of my 5 palettes. I'd have to keep this one. The next palette is a repeat from last year, but this year this was even more of a no-brainer for me to include than last year, because I remember last year there were a couple of palettes that I was considering, and this one kind of barely made it into my top 5 that I would keep, but this year I knew this one had to be included, and it's my ABH Mario palette. This is not a new palette to the market at all. I've had it since like 2018, I think, but it was really this year that I really fell in love with this palette. I used to think of this as a spring palette for some reason, I think just because of some of those softer like light pinks and purples, but now I've really come to appreciate this as a year-round palette. I think it suits all seasons. It's also a beautiful fall palette. I did another 1 month 1 palette with this one in, I think it was in August or September of this year. I think it was August. Such a variety of looks. I love the shimmers in here. The shimmers in here are some of my favorites in my whole collection. They're very, very foiled. They have this kind of like creaminess to them that you just don't find in other palettes. They're so beautiful. I tell this story a lot when I talk about this palette, but it's funny, when I first got this, I didn't really like it that much, but it has only grown on me the longer I've had it and the more I've used it. And one of my main complaints used to be that the shimmers had a lot of fallout, but you really just have to be very light-handed with these shimmers because they're so intense. If you do apply too much, like if you really rub your finger back and forth in there, or you rub your brush back and forth in there, you're going to get way too much and you're going to get fallout all over your cheeks. But the key is just to like barely tap, and you've got plenty of shadow to cover your whole lid. So that's really the key with those. I just love the mix of like soft purples and taupes and like warm rosy tones. They're just my kind of shades. I love them so much. Palette number 3 is another new one. This was not, I actually didn't even own this palette at this time last year, so it wasn't one of my picks last year, but it's my Aether Beauty Rose Quartz palette. This is the old version. I still haven't tried the new version. I'm debating picking up the new version just so I can compare, but this palette I got actually for Christmas last year, and I love it so much. This is the perfect cool toned rosy palette for like fair and light skin tones, I think. If you do have a deeper skin tone, Aether does make some other palettes with much richer shades in it, but this one, really as deep as it gets, is like this gray right here, which is really not even that deep. It's more of like a medium tone shade. But I just love how effortless this palette is for me. I never have to worry about going overboard with any of the shades. And I am someone who rarely gets excited about matte shadows, but the mattes in here are ridiculous. They are so blendable. I had not experienced truly blendable mattes until I tried this palette. Like, these just blend into my skin so easily. They also blend together so well. It's just a very cohesive, easy palette. When I first tried this, I wasn't so sure about these middle shades because they just weren't really giving me the pizzazz that I wanted, but layered over a glitter primer, they are so pretty, especially this shade right here, Reawakening. It's like a duochrome, corally golden color. Oh my goodness, absolutely gorgeous. So a glitter primer really does make all the difference with those shades. I still am really bummed that they discontinued this version of the palette. Like I said, I'm curious to try the new version, but I just love this one so much. Number 4, and by the way, this is in no particular order. I love all these palettes so much. I don't even think I could bear to rank them. They're all so good. But number 4 is none other than my Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. Of course, this one had to be included. This one was limited edition last year. You can still find it at some retailers actually for a discounted price. I have hit pan on the shade Tiger's Eye. That's actually the shade I'm wearing all over my lid today. I absolutely adore the shimmers in here. They've got that sort of scattered glimmer to them, you know? I sometimes use that description for shimmers like this that are just special. Like, they just have that unique quality to them that I think is probably hard for brands to formulate. These are so beautiful. That's kind of like the main event of this palette, is this middle section of these glimmery shimmers. I know I've talked about it a ton, but truly, like, when I have a favorite, it really is a favorite. And I think, you know, it just goes to show that this palette has stood the test of time for me. I wish this wasn't limited edition. I think this is some of the best work Urban Decay has done, especially in regards to shimmers, because usually their shimmers do not impress me at all, but these are something special. All right, number 5 is another repeat palette from last year. It's another drugstore palette too, and this is the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette. I've been raving about this palette for at least 2 years now, and so far nothing has replaced it for me. It's still just so good. Out of the 18 pan palettes from e.l.f. I've tried, this I think is the best one. I don't know, they just did something different with this one. I've also tried Opposites Attract and New Classics, and I have decluttered both of those. They were good, but just nowhere near as good as this one for some reason. I also just love this color story. It's so yummy to look at. Like, I just love the richness of these colors. There's so many colors in here that are just unique. Like, I just don't have colors like these in my collection. Like this deep turquoise here, these like denim blue colors. And the nice thing about this that I think really impresses me, especially considering that this is from e.l.f., is that the shades go on the eyes true to what you see in the pan. Like, this Abyss shade is this nice rich matte blue, and it goes on looking like that. It doesn't end up looking like gray and murky on your eyes. It really does look that rich and beautiful, just the same way it looks in the pan is how it looks on the eyes. The same goes for all of these shadows. I just love this mix of shades. You can get something very neutral and earthy. You can go green, yellow, blue. I feel like also this side of the palette with like the golds and the taupes and browns, that's kind of everything I wanted Urban Decay Naked Honey to be, and that's another palette that I had in the past and decluttered because it just wasn't quite doing it for me. I can get really any look that I would want from that palette from this side of e.l.f. Earth and Ocean, and I love that rich like yellow gold rush. It's so pretty. The greens, yeah, dang, I want to use this now. This is so good. Can't believe it's only $14, so love that one. So those are the 5 palettes that I would keep if I could only keep 5. And truly, if I were to lose any of these tomorrow, I would want to purchase a replacement as soon as possible. Yeah, if you know me, if you watch my channel, you know these are true blue favorites. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about the palettes that I keep. If I had to just really narrow it down to only 5, I think I'd really be very happy with all 5 of these and no other palettes. I think I'd have everything I need. Not that I want to be that much of a minimalist, but I think I could if I had to. But thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all for day 1 of Vlogmas on Wednesday, December 1st. Bye.